Well, hey, holy business. It's me and you this week. And of course, I have a new topic. I always have a topic I want to talk about. And there was just something interesting in a meeting recently I wanted to address and talk about because when we're growing, we are really likely to make mistakes with how many meetings we're in. And it's okay. But I also want us to think through the weight of our words when we're leading teams. It's not always the case. We get on a roll. We're in with people who have seen our investment. They know we're dedicated. But when you're the CEO or when you're in a C-suite seat or a lead pastor role, everything that comes out of your mouth just carries so much weight. And we have to really consider the audience and how they're going to receive those things, because sometimes what is authenticity or lighthearted commentary can totally kill the vibe, for lack of a better term. So not that long ago, I was in a meeting and the team had been celebrating wins. And it was one of those moments where they got to present to top leadership, their accomplishments in their departments, what was going on, just a lot of wins, a lot of growth, a lot of revenue growth. So hype meeting, really exciting to see them kind of learn how to show off in front of their leadership as they grew, but also they had some things to legitimately show off about. And most of the room was very hungry for the next steps and for additional change to kind of complete this growth process in their minds. So as they finish going around the table and they talk about kind of next quarter, and they've all set goals and they're good goals and everybody seems to be unified in the opinion, the CEO, who has always been very good at, kind of poking holes in things and helping them think in different ways, I think forgot to remove that hat in the moment and said at the end of all of this, or as they looked to him for feedback, so when do we actually get to just kind of relax and enjoy what we've done? And in that moment, the room just completely deflated. So I want to take a couple minutes and unpack that. Why did that simple question land like a weight to the team and not a relief? So, a couple reasons. We set tones, right? As leaders, we set tones with our teams. We set tones with our organizations. Pastors set the tone when you preach on Sunday mornings. So if we set a tone and then we turn on our heels, it can make our team feel like they have whiplash. It can also deflate a success story and turn it into a moment of kind of letdown and frustration when a team thinks they've achieved the goal. And instead of celebrating that and actively listening to them, we steal the win from our sails. Now, I also think that this leader was experiencing some fatigue of their own. And that's going to happen. But once again, as we've talked about before, time and time again, you cannot have vision fatigue and emotional leadership tire out in front of your team that you should be motivating. And that weight gets bigger and bigger as your level of leadership grows. Even well-intended leaders experience or can signal stagnation just because they're experiencing an emotion. And maybe this leader, best case scenario, was simply saying, you guys have earned a rest. But that's what needed to come out. Not when do we get to sit back and rest on our laurels. Also, we have to remember the pay differential of these positions. So for a CEO to say, I might need a break, and for someone on the team to say, I might need a break, that looks different financially to those people. The CEO might afford a break that someone on the team who's hungry and scrappy and young and growing cannot afford yet. So it almost sounds offensive on some level. We need to celebrate and not stop with our teams, because that question landed wrong when we didn't do that properly. Teams crave acknowledgement and direction, especially from top level leadership. So we need to understand how our team is going to interpret our signals when we walk into a room. If you've grown something from scratch, if you've gone from an associate pastor role to a lead pastor, then you need to start to look at the fact that everything that comes out of your mouth is seen differently, even if it's the same thing. And in your mind, the relationships haven't changed. They have. They just have. So your high performers, and we're talking about your high performers because they're the ones you want to keep moving. You want to keep them motivated. You want to keep them caught onto the vision and on fire, because not only because you're pushing for more, it's because it fills them up and keeps them engaged and protects their loyalty to the team and their stability in their role. So high performing teams interpret signals by going, are we building something bigger or are we just plateauing now? That leader in that moment going, when do we get to relax and enjoy what we've done? That signaled he wants us to slow down now. If you're a high performer and you're excited in your role and you're there to show what is happening, what's being accomplished, and wait for new assignments or approval to go to the next step, this is completely deflating you, and you are seeing plateau in the life cycle of the organization, or at least in your seat. Harvard Business Review talks about vision attrition when you're scaling. When leadership stops visibly promoting growth, teams disengage. What does that mean? That means, and I believe Patrick Lencioni says it best when he talks about the CEO seat, that means every day you're going to get up and in some way, you're going to connect your team to the vision, no matter what seat you're in. The CEO has the most responsibility of this, in that many times the things they're saying in each meeting they go to throughout the day are very much the same, because they're casting vision, and then they're recasting vision, and then they're recasting vision, and they're encouraging those teams to run after that vision. That is what you have to do with your high-performing teams. The second thing to think about is, what is God's heart for growth? We are faithful leaders. And yes, God talks about resting and he talks about Sabbath, but he also says he did it on the seventh day, and to work as if you are working for the Lord. Genesis 1:28 says, be fruitful and multiply, and God blesses creation with the expansion from the very beginning. Isaiah 54:2-3, enlarge the place of your tent. Growth and preparation for what's next is always in scripture. Matthew 25:14-30, the parable of the talents we've all heard. The master rewards those who expand what they are given. A lot of people struggle with that parable because there was no reward for burying it in the sand and just protecting it. And when we say things like this CEO said, we're saying, let's put up the boundaries. Let's protect what we have, but also let's not grow it. John 15:2, every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. We should always, always, always be refining and gaining momentum from it. And we should look for that in our teams. If you are in a seat and your teams are doing that and you are feeling pushed or threatened, this is your warning to have a gut check, because you're either in the wrong seat and you need to give it to someone who's ready to keep the push going, or you just need to get your wits about you, pull those boots up and get moving again, and find a mentor for yourself if that's something you're struggling with, because in the seats we're in, it can be very lonely. And within your organization, most of the time at this point is not the place to find that. Growth isn't just allowed biblically. It is mandated when you're stewarding something for the kingdom. We are stewarding our children if we're parents, and we are raising them up and letting them go out again, grown and developed and wiser and ready for the world. God models, though, on the Sabbath side and rest rhythms. There's Sabbath, there's Jubilee, there's all those feasts. We're not stopping growth in that. We're renewing for it. So when you talk about rest and relaxation with your team, it's renewal to keep moving. What we sometimes make the mistake of doing is talking about it as in a season of give up or a season of comfort or a season of protection because we're afraid of what's to come risk-wise. That is not what Scripture talks about. So we need to be careful when we present the message to our team that we're doing it in the same way, modeling what God's vision for growth and rest look like. The next thing I want to talk about is that change is good for us. Even when it feels exhausting. Going to the gym, so exhausting. But guess what? It's so good for us. There are so many psychological findings on this. One, change, we know, increases cognitive flexibility and neural plasticity. 67% of the population, roughly, is a steady personality. They don't like change. So the more we can push our teams into it in healthy ways, they're going to grow. They're going to be more flexible. They're going to be more innovative. And that is going to require you to do the same thing. There's something called the hedonic treadmill. It means we quickly normalize wins and we're wired to adapt and want new changes. So when your team achieves a big win, it's normal to celebrate it and then move on because that's our new floor. But then we need to build on that floor. And your team of high performers is expecting that. So if you're catching yourself not feeling that way, then you need to talk to someone safe about it. Not a direct report, someone who's a colleague, someone who's a mentor, or someone who you know will kick your tail around the block to get moving. And I say that as someone who's been there. McKinsey research shows that companies in constant evolution have higher long-term team engagement if communication is consistent. So if you, every time you're hitting it, are going out and recasting vision, celebrating wins, but recasting vision and encouraging your team to continue to move, you are going to have higher team engagement. You are going to have better retention as long as your message is consistent. Because one thing high performers can't stand is running after a goal and then being told that the goal's changed or the goal no longer matters. That is a quick way to lose your good people. CEOs, as lead pastors, there's a few things we must do. And the most important part of that is balancing these three things: vision, balance, and belief. One, we have to keep casting vision. Vision must evolve with the team. Clarity is more important after success. We also have to communicate. And what I mean by communicate is when you're communicating about vision, you have to point people to where they're going. We have to talk about what we've done to get where we are and how what we've done is going to prepare us for that next step. Those three things have to always connect to your team, and you need to model it for the leaders that report to you because they're going to have to go do that with their teams. And unless it's a big company address, you're relying on your leadership every day to go out and cast vision. No matter someone's job or task for the day, they are a part of supporting the vision. And if you aren't helping to connect teams to that, then you're slowing progress. Remember to always set with vision short-term targets to achieve a long-term purpose. Sometimes we can get too visionary on the long-term goals and it's hard for people to connect what's happening. So make sure that you're modeling how to look at short-term goals to get to the long-term vision. The next thing you need to do is promote rhythmic rest, but not retreat. I worked for a leader one time that always said, we don't have retreats, we have advances when it came to staff meetings or getaway conferences. And that really is something we need to think about with our teams. If you're a company, if you're an organization, if you're a church, really we should always be advancing. And we should be doing that in healthy ways so it's not hard push and then nothing or fall back. We don't want to take 3 steps forward and then lose 2 steps because we did it too hard or too fast. So rhythmic rest, not retreating, looks like strategic rest. We're going to celebrate a win this week, and then next week we're going to set some new goals. We're going to leave tonight at the end of this event really happy about what's gone on. And Monday, we're going to unpack it and look at what we do differently next time so we can continue to improve. We're going to always reinforce that rest is preparation, not reward. People are not working for rest. Rest is part of their healthy life rhythms. And we need to remember that in the way we address our teams. Rest should always be part of the equation. Model your belief in the future. If you feel like you can't get a break and you're saying that to your teams, even your admin, yes, your admin counts. If you're saying that to your teams, if you are trying to pull back the reins on something that you started in motion, but now you don't have the energy to deal with what's to come and it's down the road. If you are simply saying you're not ready to talk about a change right now and you had gotten your team involved in looking for one, you're signaling to them that you're not really seeing growth in the future. And whether that's conscious or not, it's true. So remember that as a leader, you're signaling to your team what's possible. If you're looking back, if you're wanting to take a seat, if you're not interested in change or growth, then you're signaling to them that it's not something they should pursue either. Tired teams, even after a hard season, in retail, after that fourth quarter push, the big holiday Christmas service for a large church or even a small church for that matter, the event season, it was always big when I was in events. There are those seasons where we know our teams have to push harder and we have to push harder to keep them excited and keep them recognized. But even those teams can push forward and keep going if their leader is hopeful and grounded. The hardest seasons can be fun and enjoyable and engaging and grow your team and honestly grow your business if you present the right attitude, atmosphere, and connect it to vision throughout the process. Now, look at that the other way. As a leader who walks in who's tired, who's beat up, who isn't taking time for themselves, who doesn't see positive movement even in the fire, who can't speak vision to their teams and connect them when things are off the rails. And I'll show you a team who is defeated. I'll show you a team who is leaving. I'll show you a team who is giving up quickly because they look to their leader to know it's okay. And that's you. Whether you like it or not some days. So the closing challenge for today. Have you unintentionally signaled a stop to the movement? Just remember that everything scriptural points to growth, renewal, creation, new life, and we are a part of that. So if you have unintentionally, or if you're thinking of a moment right now, it's time to go to the person who was there with you and address it. Spin the wheels back and explain where you misstepped and talk about how you really feel. And if this is a place you really feel, the other step would be to find someone to discuss about it. Because if you're not wanting to move forward, there's no need for you to take your whole organization down with you. You need to figure out where your seat needs to be, or you need to take a partner to help you work through. And my guess is, as a C-suite leader, a lead pastor, you didn't get to where you are today without being really good at renewal. So figure out what's going to get you there. Be encouraged and encourage your team to bless what has been. Celebrate it. Celebrate the heck out of those wins. But always use that energy and enthusiasm to leverage and springboard you into what's next. Never to ask them when they get to take a seat or when you get to take a seat. Something to think about. I'm a big journaler. So one thing I think would be good if you don't take the time to do, and it could even be an audio memo while you're driving. I've had seasons of that. But just your thoughts. If you have stopped casting vision and you're a top level leader, Is it because of fear? Is it because of fatigue? Is it because the vision has changed? What is it that you stopped casting vision? Where have you stopped casting vision? Investigate it and journal about it. But most importantly, start every day figuring out how you're going to embrace and celebrate wins, but also push for more. Because that's the point. That's what we're doing. There's no life cycle of an organization that shows plateau leading to greatness. Plateau always leads to decline because we are wired to be moving. It's just whether we're moving forward or backward. And you as a leader get to choose that, but your team is going to follow what you choose. So be very careful. That's all I have for today. And if you've got something to address as you process all of this, do it. If you need help with how to figure it out, don't hesitate to reach out with a DM or shoot me an email. And most importantly, just keep casting vision and be faith forward. Will get your energy forward and vision forward. So just forward is the key word today. Have a great week, guys.